going on, gardeners? Here where I live on the southeastern coast of North Carolina, we get 30 to 40 freezes every single winter. And despite this cold weather, I am growing an extensive tropical fruit tree food forest in ground here. And on today's video, I'm going to take you for a tour for all of the incredible things that I'm growing in ground that should not be growing here. And I'm going to tell you exactly how I do this and hopefully inspire you to grow bigger beyond your wildest dreams.
If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the bell to receive new video notifications, and check out our Amazon store and Spreadshop links in the video description for everything I use in my garden and awesome custom designed apparel and other gear. Your support is greatly appreciated.
I'm going to begin this video by showing you all of the incredible things that I'm growing in ground where I live that should not grow here. Now later in the video, I will tell you exactly how I do these things. However, I have put together an extensive playlist over the years that have very detailed instructions on my methods, and I will make sure to link to that entire playlist down in the video description so you can get the finer details no matter where you live. The first tree that I simply must show you is my least cold tolerant tree of them all, and that is my incredible Lila avocado tree. Yes, that's right, I have an in-ground avocado tree growing in North Carolina, and it is towering over my house. It has been in the ground for 4 years here, and it is not only surviving but thriving. And in this time period, we have had numerous nights that have fallen well into the teens, and it is still kicking butt. I'm probably one of the few people in the entire state of North Carolina that has been growing an in-ground avocado tree for years. And the thing that truly makes this possible is that it is a Mexican avocado variety. Now, most varieties of avocado that we're familiar with are Guatemalan varieties like Hass. That is a Guatemalan avocado, and they are sensitive to frost. But Mexican avocados can survive briefly to temperatures that dip into the low 20s and teens. And this is not just an ornamental tree. As you can see, it is fruiting for me. That is right, there are avocados on this tree. And boy, oh boy, do those avocados look fantastic. The second fruit tree that I'm growing in ground that technically shouldn't grow in North Carolina are citrus trees. And this right here is the crown jewel of my garden. It's the first fruit tree that I planted in ground when I moved here, and that is my Owari Satsuma citrus tree. Now, the Satsuma trees are the most cold hardy of the commercial quality citrus, and they are almost seed-free. The flavor is absolutely fantastic, and while most citrus ripen for you in winter, the great thing about Satsumas is they ripen for you in the fall. So they will be ready for you before the really hard freezes start setting in. This tree is one of my lowest maintenance trees that I have in ground, and it has been thriving since I planted it about 5 years ago. Last year I had an absolute bumper crop of Satsuma oranges off of this tree, and this year will be no exception. It is loading up with fruit. You're starting to see a lot of the mandarin oranges form on the tree. Down at the bottom, it gets even crazier. It'll be a lot easier to see these when they start turning colors, but it's still pretty early in the season. But let me tell you, there's going to be no shortages of fruit on this tree. Now, if you're a citrus aficionado, you know that the Satsumas are, generally speaking, the most cold hardy of all of the commercial quality, almost seedless varieties of citrus. Now, what is more impressive than growing a Satsuma in ground is growing a Meyer lemon in ground. This is another one of my amazing citrus that I'm growing in ground. This is going on its 3rd season, and I have to show you the incredible yields of fruit on this baby. The yields of lemons that I got off of this tree was ridiculous last year, considering it was only its 2nd year in ground. And this year is going to be even better because the tree has put on so much growth. It is setting fruit higher up on the tree, but down at the bottom where the growth is older and it has been fruiting for a little while, there are even more lemons. And it's going to be pretty crazy down there when it comes time to start harvesting these lemons in the winter. This is my favorite variety of lemon overall. It is a natural hybrid. So because it has some Satsuma mandarin orange in its lineage, you get incredible amounts of lemon juice from this tree. This may come as a shock to you, but those citrus trees that I'm growing are probably my lowest maintenance trees of every single fruit tree that I grow in my yard. They are so easy to grow that it has increased my confidence so much that I've even started planting out citrus way in the back of my yard. And here I have a Caracara red navel orange, here I have a Meiwa kumquat, and here I have a brown select satsuma, which is an earlier variety of satsuma. And these are going on their third season, and they are also thriving. Again, the citrus has been so easy to grow that I've even started planting it out front in my front yard where it has full exposure to the north wind. This is a sugar bell citrus tree that is going on its second season. And then right here I have a grafted Ichang lemon that I'm also growing in ground that's going on its second season. Now, while the citrus and avocado trees have been very easy and low maintenance for me to grow, this tree right here has been the easiest to grow of anything edible that I'm growing at all in my garden. This has truly been a zero maintenance tree, and that is the third tree that I want to talk to you about, which is the Feijoa, or the pineapple guava. Now, while this is often referred to as a pineapple guava, it is not technically a guava. It is a different species altogether. However, it is a delicious fruit and it is a very unique tree. And while the citrus and the avocados that I'm growing here in zone 8A are typically zone 9 trees, so I do need to protect them, this tree right here is a true 7B/8A tree. So if you're in a mild zone 7B, you can easily grow this in ground with just planting it up against the wall of the house to give it a little bit of a north windbreak. If you put this in a sheltered corner, I even think it is possible to grow this in some zone 7As. So if you've mostly been turning your ears off about the citrus and avocados because you live in a much colder climate than I do, this one may truly be possible for you if you live in, say, zone 6 and you're willing to give it a little bit of protection. Now, if you let this tree grow on its own, it is more like a flowering, fruiting hedge than it is a tree. And what is great about this tree is it has the most beautiful, wonderfully scented, perfumey, tropical flowers. And most of them have flowered, and they're done flowering for the year because the tree is in the process of setting fruit. And what you see right there, they will turn into the Feijoa fruits. And I have had incredible amounts of success with this tree. If you want something really awesome and really unique that is evergreen and super low maintenance, the Feijoa is definitely one that you really want to consider for your yard. And because the roots are so small, it's also good for foundation plantings up against a house like mine. The fourth tree that I want to share with you is technically not a tropical tree. However, most varieties are very cold sensitive and don't like frosts and freezes. And that is an olive tree. Now, an olive tree is an evergreen tree, and it is generally thought of to be more Mediterranean than tropical. However, they're from mostly low frost or frost-free areas of the Mediterranean. Now, what makes this possible for me to grow here is this is a select variety called Arbosana, and this is a natural dwarf, and once it is established, it can survive down to 7B/8A, right about on that zone line, unprotected. So because I'm in a pretty strong zone 8A, I'm not going to have to protect this at all, unless we were to get some kind of freak freeze our first winter where I may have to cover it. So if you live in 8A or 7B, you can grow this unprotected once it establishes, unless you're going to have some crazy freeze that is going to dip down into the single digits or something. So if you are looking for a naturally dwarfing, self-fertile, cold-tolerant olive tree, this is probably the perfect one for backyard gardens because it is one of the smallest and one of the most cold-hardy out there. Now, if you're in a zone colder than zone 7B, this is one that you may want to consider as well, because if you give it a little bit of protection and you're willing to cover it and do the things that I'm going to explain later in this video, you may be able to grow this in much colder zones. Now, up until this point, all of the trees that I've featured are basically for gardens that are in zone 7 or warmer. And I know many of you watching this video right now are in colder zones. So now I want to also feature a few trees that are not technically tropical, but they look very tropical when they are filled out with leaves. And these trees will be easy for you to grow if you live in even very cold zones and will give your yard that nice tropical feel during the summer. Tree number 5 is coffee. Yes, you heard me right, coffee. I have been growing coffee for 6 years now in North Carolina, and these plants are a breeze, and they will grow literally anywhere because there is no tree that fruits that I think is an easier tree to grow indoors and over winter. All you have to do is just move these trees indoors when it's going to start getting regularly below 45 degrees. These don't like really getting temperatures that are below 50. They start kind of bugging out on you. So all I do is I move them out into my sunroom, and it's always in the 40s at night throughout the winter in my sunroom, and they get a little bit of browning on the leaves, but as soon as I put them out in the sun, they come right back once the growing season gets warm again. These Arabica coffee trees have been a breeze for me to grow. Now, like I said, they don't like temperatures below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. They'll start to brown on the leaves a little bit, and my sunroom is pretty much always in the low 40s at night during the winter, so they do take some winter damage, but they put on all new foliage come the summer. And contrary to popular belief, you don't have to grow your coffee trees completely in the shade. I grow them out in 12 hours of full, unobstructed North Carolina sun getting blasted, and they do absolutely fine. The old crop of coffee beans is mostly done on them. I could grind my own coffee at this point if I wanted to. And they also get the most beautiful creamy white flowers, and they're starting to load up with more beans. So these have been a very easy indoor-outdoor plant for me to grow. They do great by window light in the winter, and they do great in full sun in the summer. This sixth tree is the Asian persimmon tree. The Asian persimmon here where I live is a very low maintenance tree. Aside from annual pruning, it pretty much grows itself. And Asian persimmons, you can get them that are hardy all the way down to zone 6, but you can also grow an Asian American hybrid persimmon that will be hardy down to zone 5, or you can grow pure American persimmons, which don't quite look as tropical. You can get them that are hardy down to zone 3 or 4. Now, the reason why I prefer Asian persimmons is they are a smaller, naturally semi-dwarfing tree. They have nicer, deeper, darker green, larger foliage, which I think looks very tropical. And they also have larger fruits that are almost all self-fertile and mostly seedless. This is a variety called Giambo, and it is very fruitful, and it is also very vigorous. This tree is going on its 3rd season, and as you can see, it is just a beast. And the 7th tree I want to feature is the tree that got me into growing fruit trees to begin with and started my YouTube channel, and that is the fig tree. Figs are from the Mediterranean. They are a deciduous tree, but they are a less cold hardy deciduous tree. Some people have problems growing with them. However, fig trees easily grow back from the roots from winter dieback. So even if your trees get killed down to the roots every single winter because your area is a little bit cold, you can generally grow these in ground to about zone 5 if you're willing to mulch around the roots to protect them. But hey, if you don't have the in-ground space for that, don't worry, because fig trees are popularly grown in containers at any zone. The online community for growing figs in containers is absolutely massive. And as you can see, I have quite the extensive collection of fig trees in containers. They will basically acclimate to whatever size pot you give them. They fruit like crazy in containers. In fact, in some ways, they can even fruit more aggressively in containers because when you restrict the roots, they usually react to that stress by fruiting very heavily. So my fig trees in containers are generally much earlier and ripen for me probably about a full 3 to 4 weeks earlier than any of the comparable varieties in ground. So now that you've seen all the incredible tropical fruit trees that I'm growing in ground where they technically shouldn't grow, I'm going to show you exactly how I do that in a short summary, and it is basically a 2-step process. The first step of that process is to keep the fruit trees as small as possible so they're easy to protect, and you will basically do that by either buying trees that are naturally dwarfing or you will get them grafted onto dwarf rootstocks. All of my citrus trees are grafted onto trifoliate orange rootstocks because they are naturally dwarfing, and they will keep your citrus trees at a maximum height of about 5 to 7 feet if you prune them annually. So this tree is never going to get any taller than this. this is the mature height, and that makes it very easy to cover them and offer them some protection and wind blocks when the cold weather finally gets here. In the case of my Lila avocado tree, this is a naturally semi-dwarf avocado. It's one of the shortest varieties that you can get, and this is about as tall as it's ever going to get. Every single fall, I chop this down to about shoulder height. So here you'll see I've estimated about the maximum that I can protect it to in the winter, and I've built a little PVC structure to cover it. So what I do is I cut it down lower than the structure, and then it slowly regrows throughout the winter when it's pretty cool. It will never outgrow that structure during the winter when I actually have to cover it, and then in the summer it takes off, but it's no big deal. I'll just cut this down again after Labor Day in September. Same thing goes with my Meyer lemon. Right now it's growing out because this is my only non-grafted citrus tree, but come the fall I will chop it down to about yay height, almost like a hedge, and then it basically stalls out and doesn't grow much during the winter, and it makes it very easy to cover. And the second thing we need to do is we need to offer our trees a bit of cold protection, and I like doing this in 3 separate ways. The first thing is my most cold sensitive trees, like my avocado tree and my Meyer lemon, they're specifically planted up against the south wall of my house, because in the northern hemisphere the cold comes predominantly from the north wind and the sun shines from the south. So my wall all throughout the day when the sun is out will get full coverage from the sun throughout the winter, and then it will radiate that heat back towards the trees all throughout the evening, and it will also be effective at blocking the north wind. In the southern hemisphere, it's the opposite of that. You actually want to plant your trees that are cold sensitive up against the northern exposure because that's where the sun comes from, and you want to block the south wind from Antarctica. Then we will have to cover these trees on really cold nights where it's going to be significantly below freezing. And now trees don't pump out body heat. They make no heat at all. So if you just cover them, it's not going to do anything more than keep the frost off of them. So you actually have to add a heat source underneath. So I like using incandescent Christmas lights because they're outdoor rated, so they're safe in the rain and the snow, and they're safe to contact foliage. And I also use one of these 60-gallon food grade pickle barrels as well, because while these Christmas lights do a great job at providing additional warmth, in the case you get some kind of power outage, you want some kind of backup. And that 60-gallon food grade pickle barrel full of water easily adds 5 to 10 degrees when you cover a tree and you keep that under it. So when you combine these two systems and you have the lights on and that water barrel, even when we've gotten down to 14 degrees, this tree stayed above 30 degrees. So once we've chosen a strategic location to plant our trees, and we've also added the water barrels and the Christmas lights to keep them warm, then we are going to cover them with one of these plant jackets that has a drawstring, and we're going to place that over the tree, and we are going to pull the drawstring over it and then tighten that drawstring in order to lock in the heat. Woo! No, I'm just kidding. These are completely breathable, and that's what makes these things so good. These plant jackets are made out of agricultural fabric that is breathable, so it will allow oxygen in and out of the plant while still locking in some heat. And it also lets in anywhere from 60 to 90% of UV rays, depending on the thickness of the jackets that you get. So you can leave these on for months at a time. And this is a good example of a smaller one that I use to cover my smaller citrus trees in the front yard. But I have a monster one that for about $20 will fit over this avocado tree once I prune it down to the size of that PVC hoop house that I have around it. So effective have these methods been that even out in the back of my yard where I have no access to electricity, these water barrels and plant jackets on their own have been enough to keep these citrus trees alive. I specifically picked this back corner because the woods back here and the overhang give some frost protection and some protection from the wind, but they're still exposed to the eastern and the northern winds that can whip around my house. So it goes to show you just how effective these water barrels can be. These water barrels are really easy to find. You can just look on Craigslist and type in 60-gallon food grade barrels or pickle barrels. You'll usually be able to find them for about the $20 to $30 range. I only paid 25 bucks a piece for those. If you're interested in these plant jackets, I will have them linked in the video description below in my Amazon storefront underneath the list plant freeze protection. I've been using them for years. They come in all different sizes. And that right there is how I'm growing a tropical food forest in North Carolina where these things shouldn't grow. So if you're in my zone, it will show you the incredible things that you can grow in ground that you may have never thought possible. If you're in a colder zone than I am, this should give you some direction on a lot of different things you can grow as well. If you're in a warmer zone than I am, the sky is literally the limit. If you're in zone 9, you can grow all kinds of stuff, almost anything tropical with these methods. And like I said, over the years, I have put together a lot of videos that are more detailed on how you can offer nearly foolproof cold protection. They are all linked in a playlist down in the video description, so check that out if you want to see exactly what I do with greater detail. So everybody, I sure hope you found this video helpful and inspiring. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and please ring that notification bell so you're notified when me and Dale release more videos like these. If you're curious about any of the products that I featured in this video or that I use in my garden in general, they will all be linked down below in my Amazon storefront in the video description. And while you're there, check out my spread shop for custom merch if you want to support the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and Dale and I hope to see all of you again on the next video.
Woo, Daily, we got a good-looking breakfast for you this morning, my friend. We have beef with carrots and broccoli and rice. And of course, we make sure to top all of your breakfast with a daily multivitamin and a daily joint support vitamin, so we keep you nice and young and spry forever. What do you think, buddy? Are you hungry? You're probably pretty hungry, aren't you? Whoop, can you sit? Hold on, mister. You want to lock that bowl in there so it doesn't go moving on you. Okay. All right, well, you tell us how that is, buddy. Ooh, that looks very tasty. That looks very good.